So welcome everybody. We're here with Jaime Ramirez, who's CEO and founder of Preventor, and Lorenzo Delzoppo, who's CEO and founder of Co.Ris.Ma. Welcome, both of you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
We're gonna have a chat, like they call it, the fireside chat. It's new post-COVID, new for all of us. So it's gonna be more fun. And we're gonna talk about the best identity verification workflows. We focus on Fintech, but also we're gonna cover all industries and what's the best way to cover all the regulatory requirements and the user experience for anything related to digital identification. So we're gonna start with Lorenzo. Lorenzo, we wanna talk about three main topics, that is the regulatory requirements, the user experience, and the management of data and depository of data. But let's go, step by step. Tell us about the regulatory requirements in KYC, which we've known for a very long time. But what's the best way to do it from a technology perspective and regulatory perspective? Your background in regulatory, of course.
Yes, and I have to say that the reality of this kind of particular environment changed dramatically during COVID. We have seen it. It's like we found ourselves for over a year stuck in the house without the real chances to interact with other people. Imagine opening an account.
Right.
Opening an account, it became like a very almost impossible because of the legacy systems that were out there. If you think about how many banks or even credit union or even any kind of like a new relationship that involved a financial transaction required specifically by federal regulation that you have to perform certain kind of steps to verify the identity of the client. It's a general, it's a law that applies to all the country. And by the way, since it's also representative of what the FATFA is, the FATFA is like a worldwide practically standards. This is something that applies all over the world. So imagine the difficulty for so many people to be able to actually start a brand new relationship with a financial institution. Because I'm thinking that means that the whole system could not work. The whole financial system could not work, could not bring a new energy, could not bring a new business inside the ecosystem. So this new reality pushed towards like new technologies. The technologies mainly that they have to satisfy three fundamental requirements. The first one, of course, is the regulatory part. Why? Because that's the law. Sorry. The other one is how people that are not trained or working in the technology space can actually be able to onboard. So they have to simplify at the extreme certain kind of process that are incredibly cumbersome. Like if you think about like something like walking, how many times like you walked in the bank to open an account? Yeah. How long did it take? Sometimes 45 minutes, 1 hour.
More.
Exactly. You can do it if you are actually there, physically present. If you're physically present and you walk into a bank, they got you there.
Yeah. And they can see you, they can see your picture in your document, they can touch you.
What happens if you cannot be there and they have to perform the same function? However, you have to do it on a computer or even on a phone. What is your attention span when you are doing something on a phone? So like you are using like you scroll it. You can always scroll it. So there is this element of the user experience that became incredibly important because think about you cannot expect somebody that encounter any kind of hurdles, or if it takes more than what, 30 seconds, not 1 hour. We are talking about probably you can stretch it, the attention span of somebody who has to open an account on the phone, you can probably stretch it to 3 minutes. Right. You can get it like somebody that is very, very devoted, 5, 10,
10 minutes.
10 minutes on the phone? Are you kidding?
No.
Close,
no.
Immediately, problem.
It's impossible.
It's you swipe left, swipe right, swipe left.
If the average website visit, in a very, very good website, is 3 minutes.
Exactly. So you have this new reality that of the user experience that has to be maximized. And in addition to this, you have the third element of the customer service and where the data resides. Do you really think that in this new reality, you have to interface with customer service because there is any kind of issue? Any kind of issue that happened and something that was already resolved? Do you really, would you be you as an individual, as a customer, would you be even willing to accept that they cannot retrieve the data of the previous conversation?
No. Okay, so we're going to go into that later, but let's first just go over what, in this new world, what are regulators actually accepting as, a KYC verification process that is acceptable to them, that is going to, be accepted as compliant for any organization?
Yes, we saw, I don't want to say more flexibility on the side from the regulator side. That's not a matter of flexibility. It's a matter of being able to leverage a technology to stay in line with what the regulations are. At the end of the day, the regulations, they tell you that you have to verify that the person that is communicating with the company is exactly who they say they are.
Yeah.
And that's why, like the technologies that are able to verify the IDs became so important, or like verify the livelihood of the individual that is interactive became so important. And then the ability for the system to screen those names against the list of bad actors.
Right.
That's mainly the main requirement. And we have seen the automatic, how the technology was able to dramatically improve this kind of elements, because if you think about in a bank, you have the individual that look at you, check your IDs, they look at you very
So
much.
actually, let's go with that into technology, because Preventor does that type of technology. What are the latest trends in livelihood checks and all of this technology that Lorenzo was going over, the documents detection, database, what are the latest trends in that?
Yeah, well, Lorenzo explains very well what the regulations requires for any fintech or financial institutions or any company that does any financial transactions. But how do you comply with that using the technology, right? The first things that you need to know is that like if you don't have the person in front of you, you need to verify who you are doing business with. And how do you do it? I mean, before pandemic, most of the financial institutions used to send you an OTP password. They send you an email verification for some transaction. They send you, or they even call you. And they say, "Hey, are you doing this transaction?"
Yeah, wire transfer.
Exactly.
I still have banks calling me for wire.
And they even call you to verify that it was you. Before pandemic, you have the ability to, if you don't believe that that's the person, you can ask the person to come to the office or come to the branch, etc. Now, with this kind of new life of to do business with after pandemic, you have to do everything or most of the things remotely. And after pandemic, the business will do the same. They're not going to go back to say, okay, no, let's go back, destroy the technology, and we're going to use in the way that we used
and
before.
your client will not accept it either. They're not going to accept, okay, now I'm going to go into the branch because you need me to.
Exactly. So how do you verify, a person, that is not in front of you? The first thing is to know, to ask for any government issue ID and any document that is issued by any of the government or any jurisdiction in any country that you are doing business with. So you need to verify that document. You need to have the tools to verify that the document is real, authentic, that it was not altered. And for that, you need to have also the ability to validate different kind of identities, not to go just with say, okay, in the United States, I'm going to validate only driver license. What about if I don't have a driver license? I mean, I have an ID card, okay, but I don't have an ID card. Okay, but I am a US citizen, so I have my passport. No, we don't accept the passport. So you need to have the variety to accept different kinds of documents. Then after, you need to validate the person that is holding that document. So you need to have other tools to validate if the person is live. Those are the technologies, license technology, which most of the companies are doing. But at the end of the day, what you need to do is that you need to have an integrated system. Plus, that integrated system has to be efficient and cost effective, and also, like Lorenzo said, the user experience. You want to have that the whole system or the whole process not last more than 60 seconds. 60 seconds is too much. You need to cut it out in 30
seconds for liveness detection.
For the whole process.
The whole sign-up process. The
whole process of verification.
Okay.
Of verification. If something is wrong in the 60 seconds, then you go into a case management to resolve the problem on the back office. Okay. So that's another thing that I think of the times don't think of. I mean, you can search on Google and you can put an identity verification system. I mean, you can. Yeah, you see hundreds of systems, but it's not only that they use the technology, that probably some of them are resellers of others, but you need to think of how that technology is going to apply into my business. And what is going to happen if something is wrong, if it's not a happy path. Right. If the person is not a person, how are you going to resolve the problem? Because if everything works fine, I mean, if everything works fine, you don't even need to verify the other person. Just open the account and know the person, But you need to have your workflow thinking of something bad is going to happen. How are you going to resolve it?
So actually, like that, let's sit down in the seat of a fintech company right now. They're designing their product. They're trying to make sure that their user experience is perfect so that they don't lose anybody in the onboarding process. Okay, what factors should they be looking at when looking at solutions and when looking at regulations? What do they need to make sure they're complying with in terms of what's the greatest risk out there? Mm-hmm. And what's the best way to look for the software or the solution? So that's
the reason why people, like companies, bring me in. This is like my specialty. Right. My specialty is to maximize the solution available and create a streamlined process in a way, not only from the point of view of the user, the customer that is actually interfacing with the software, but with the other user of the product, the other user who is the back office. Too many times the back office is not taken into consideration. Right. But you have the interfacing with the company's clients on my side, that we said very short attention span, but hurdles throughout and hiccups. throughout the process. The process has to be seamless all throughout. They has to flow pleasantly for the customer, because otherwise the first experience, this is like the onboarding experience, is the first contact. It's like if you have a nasty, like a person at the front desk.
Right.
You know, the first person is, what do you want here? Whoa, like, why are you here? Oh, hold on a second, I don't need to walk into the store, I can go somewhere else. And that's the same. That's the same thing is, but we have also to consider on the back. The back is, you have to think about behind all this technology, there is a pool of people that are actually managing that.
Right.
And these people, they have to be happy. They have to be happy.
In order to do their work right.
Exactly, in this interaction. If they have to work on 5 different systems that they have to open, they have like 2 screens and they have like windows all over the places, and they have to follow all the steps and they have to repeatedly enter the information from one to another. I was a chief compliance officer for a bank here in Miami for 10 years. I remember that at the first time when I started at the bank and we have to redesign the whole workflow, listen, if I had hair, I would put my probably if I had hair, I would have lost. It was crazy. Like I could say there was even like frontliners that they had the customer in front. They would take note on a notepad and enter the information here, and then they have to close that window, open another one, and not to ask information from the customer again. They were writing everything on a notepad and type it in. They were supposed to type it in like in 3 different places. To do the screening for the names, to enroll in a certain particular area was the craziest thing I have ever done in my life. For somebody that's kind of a geek, that was really So it's nowadays, this is unacceptable. It's unacceptable. You need one place where you resolve everything. And we said, what he said, the easy part is when everything goes right. Mm-hmm. But it's, for us, we call it the pass-fail kind of situation. You have the pass, and the fail is the problem. Let's say that your name is Jose Gonzalez. We are in Miami, you know.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's a very good one.
It's probably the most common name ever. However, if your name, it's very likely that, you know, like if you run that name, something in some list of politically exposed person, or like some money laundering case that happens sometimes in the history of mankind, something has to pop on the screen. The fact that the fact that it has to be resolved quickly, it's super important for the relationship with the customer. First, your name is Gonzalez, and you already been stopped like a million times.
Especially in the world that we're living now with fintech, with everything out of electronic, and if you as a business person, you are thinking that you're going to build a solution and you want to scale it. I mean, the user experience with the customer, with your customer is one part. The user experience of the back office to resolve the problem quickly is the second part. But the third part is the developer experience, right? Because you can find that a real nice application is approved by the compliance department, is approved by your board of directors, everything is fine. Now, the technicians or the developers are the one in charge to integrate it, and the whole project delays months. Why? Because the solution is not, it doesn't have a seamless integration with your system. So you need to be aware of the 3 experiences: user, back office, and developer.
Right.
And also, in addition to this, we have the data and the customer service, kind of the CRM, let's call it the CRM element. That is, okay, it's not only the onboarding piece, it's the life of the relationship. The problem is a certain kind of software or like provider are considered by many, let's say a startup, let's say a relationship with a startup. I'm a startup and I know something about regulation, but I've never worked in a bank or a financial institution, but I have this great idea. I'm going to be the Uber of something. Everybody's the Uber.
The Uber of something.
As the Uber of something. I hear that every day. So let's say the Uber of something is looking for a verification. By the way, Uber use this kind of technologies too, so exactly, because they have to onboard the two-sided driver.
Hopefully they do it right.
Exactly, hopefully they do it right. But let's say they only consider the moment of when the customer started the relationship. Mm-hmm. That's not enough, because let's say that the customer is some place like Venezuela. Okay, customer from Venezuela. Venezuela, the list of the sanction list, the people in the sanction list, let's say the changes when every 15 minutes, probably, because it's continuous. Let's say that you have onboarded somebody. How about 6 months down the line? What if this individual, for instance, was elected as an official by any chance, becomes part of the government, immediately becomes sanctioned. So you cannot perform any kind of, let's say that the level of risk increases dramatically for the company, because it becomes a politically exposed person. And this is like, let's say, if it's comes from an island of the Caribbean, even worse. If you live in an island with other 50,000 people, I can assure you,
you're going to be really to a politician.
Sooner or later, you are related to somebody that has So all these kind of cases, they can happen throughout the life of the relationship. Mm-hmm. And that's the problem. Like, you need a depository of data where you can verify that the screen at the beginning, so everybody knows the KYC, but it's not only the KYC, it's the ongoing monitoring throughout the relationship and how to resolve the issue throughout the relationship, because it can be that it's been verified before. Let's say that you have opened a new product, and by any reason, a new product, there is some kind of screening because it's a lending product. It's the Uber of lending. So some new relationship started. There is a new verification. Got hit, you have a fail, but you already have verified that the name is the same. However, was born, the date of birth is totally different. Make an example. And that's already been verified. Why? If you go to the customer, you tell him, oh, can you provide us evidence of your date of birth? And already the guy have done that like 1 million times. That would be 1,000,001 that maybe is the last draw. Right. You never know. So the point is, you need a depository of data of all the past and all the fails. And you need a place where even the customer service can retrieve information.
Right, not only the depository, but the smart reading of that data so that it can help the customer service serve better, right?
Correct. Yes.
And that specifically on fintech, also you were using the example of, the bank still calling me to verify, whatever transactions, or sometimes even wire transfers. How can we do that? I saw some trends in voice recognition. And,
that will be like the ongoing authentication after post-onboarding. If you do the onboarding through the digital identity process, you already going to have the face of your customer on the database. So you can easily do the ongoing authentication using a face recognition after that, right? So the person can do can authorize any transaction, even the login. It could be a login without the password and the user password. So once you have the ongoing authentication process, you can enhance that ongoing authentication process also with different kinds of methods. I mean, you can not only do face recognition, you can do also video liveness detection. You can do voice recognition. You can mix those in case it depends on the kind of it depends on the business. It depends on the kind of risk of the transaction, and really how do you want to automate this or to have more security on your transaction, right? So you put an example before about the wire transfer. That some of the banks, like I don't know if it's still doing it, but I used to have customers that they, for the wire transfer, they call people, they send a fax. They send a fax to a person, to the fax that they have on file, and probably that record was months or years ago. So they're using the same fax number. So they send a fax, verify this transaction, if it's you or not. The person sign it, return the fax, and they, okay, yeah, it's me. Okay, the wire transferring is authorized. Oh, well, if they're modern, their process now, probably they're sending an OTP transaction, like a verification code to your phone, which is okay. It's one of the two factors authentications, but there is a lot of proof that those processes can be hacked.
Yeah.
So you need to be ahead of that, right? And for payment systems, for example, now everything is doing electronically. You have cryptocurrencies. You do everything online. You don't want to do anything in person. You want to do everything online. So you authorize transactions. Even if you have your app, the app can be hacked too. So if you do a certain transaction that is over a limit of something, a threshold that you put, like, I don't know, after this threshold, we need to verify that the transaction is legitimate. How are you going to do it? I mean, it will be so easy to do it with your face. It will be so easy to do it with your voice. If the transaction is over a higher limit, $50,000 wire transfer, okay, do both. Right. Live with voice at the same time.
Okay, so we're running out of time, so I just want you both to give me, the top tips, the summary of what are the tips that you would give a fintech or, a technology company that needs verification in terms of regulatory perspective and technology perspective. What are your main recommendations? That's, I guess, the top three. Can we do that?
The best recommendation that I can do is, please, when you're picking a software, think about me. And when I say think about me, think about the people in the back office, not only like what is like the most competitive price because there are so many like products out there. No, think about if these really satisfy the needs of your compliance people, because afterwards, they have to actually be able to work on that. They have to be able to actually integrate the system with pre-existing or core systems, let's call it core repository data system. They need to interact with the front line, with the first line of defense. So please, if you are picking up a software, think about me.
Yeah, I would say that you need to think of more than to buy a technology to establish a relationship with a business partner. So someone that they're gonna understand your business and that they're gonna integrate the technology into your business, but not as a tool, as part of your business process. So if you can automate your business process, it's the success of your app, of your business, right? So I think that's what you need to do.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much, both of you. It was a great conversation, and thank
Thank
you
you.
all for being there.